The trade war between the United States and China has become one of the most decisive events in the global economy in recent years. In an interconnected world, where supply chains are complex and dependent on international flows, understanding the trade strategies of these two giants is crucial to predict changes in the global market. But what lies behind the tariffs and export restrictions on critical minerals? How are these measures shaping the future of high-tech industries, such as semiconductors and defense systems? In this video, we will explore the complex trade tactics between the US and China and understand how their policies are affecting the high-tech sector, with a focus on semiconductors, rare minerals, and, of course, the impact on global trade relations. By the end, you'll have a clear view of how businesses and governments can adapt to this challenging landscape. Let's dive into these dynamics together. The trade war between the United States and China is not a new phenomenon. It began to intensify in 2018 when the US government, under President Donald Trump, imposed a series of import tariffs on Chinese products. The justification was a mix of economic and national security concerns, including intellectual property violations, technology theft, and unfair trade practices. But the roots of this conflict go even further back in time. Since the 1990s, the United States has been concerned with China's economic growth and the impact of its trade policies on global trade. China's rise as an economic power was accompanied by the globalization of supply chains, in which the country became essential for producing a wide range of products. However, as China advanced in developing high-tech industries, tensions began to rise, particularly in areas like semiconductors and telecommunications. Under the Trump administration, the focus was on reducing the trade deficit with China, which in 2017 exceeded $375 billion. The tariffs initially targeted products like steel, aluminum and technology, but quickly expanded to dozens of other categories. Beijing's response was to retaliate by imposing tariffs on U.S. agricultural and industrial products. This cycle of escalation became the foundation for a confrontation that involves not only trade disputes but also broader geopolitical issues. The imposition of import tariffs by the United States on Chinese products was one of the first steps in escalating trade tensions. Initially, the tariffs affected products like steel and aluminum, but quickly expanded to more strategic categories such as electronics and consumer technology. At the height of the trade war in 2019, the U.S. had imposed tariffs covering approximately $550 billion in goods imported from China. These products included computers, car parts, and even toys. The goal was to force China to change its economic and trade policies and reduce the massive trade deficit. However, China did not remain passive in response to these tariffs. Beijing retaliated with its own series of tariffs on U.S. products, particularly agricultural exports such as soybeans and pork. These retaliatory measures not only affected commodity markets but also created an economic stalemate. The tariff war directly impacted businesses, raising operating costs and ultimately passing these increases on to consumers. According to a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, in 2019, every American household paid about $831 more per year due to the tariffs imposed by the trade war. In addition to tariffs, China began adopting a new set of measures to control crucial exports. In 2024, the Chinese government implemented a ban on the export of critical minerals such as gallium and germanium to the United States. These minerals are essential for the production of semiconductors and other components crucial to the high-tech industry. The control of these exports, which also affects third-party countries that buy Chinese materials for resale in the U.S., is a strategy by Beijing to exert influence over the global market and counter the sanctions imposed by the U.S. These trade measures are not just an economic issue, they have profound implications for global geopolitics. With China accounting for about 60% of the world's germanium production and 98% of gallium, the impact on the supply of critical materials has a ripple effect on technology and defense industries. Western companies and governments are being forced to seek alternatives to avoid the risks of dependence on Chinese supply chains, while finding ways to mitigate the economic impacts of such restrictions. Let's take a quick break. If you're enjoying the video so far, could we ask for a small favor? Clicking the like button helps us reach a wider audience, and sharing your thoughts or feedback in the comments has an even greater impact. Thanks for watching. Let's dive back in. Import tariffs and export controls have not only altered the trade relations between the United States and China, but have also had a direct and significant impact on global supply chains, particularly in high-tech industries. The measures taken by both countries have disrupted a delicate supply network that had been carefully built over decades, with China becoming a key link in the production of electronic products, semiconductors, and even military components. The immediate impact of these tariffs was the rise in costs for companies around the world. With China being a key supplier of raw materials and essential components such as germanium and gallium, the restrictions imposed by Beijing jeopardized the stability of industries that depend on these materials. For example, gallium is a vital mineral for the manufacturing of high-performance semiconductors, which are used in devices such as smartphones, satellites, and radar systems. The increase in the cost of these materials and the disruption in supply led companies in the sector to re-evaluate their sourcing strategies. In addition, the United States also implemented strict measures that affected China, such as restrictions on the export of advanced semiconductor manufacturing technology. In 2023, the US government expanded the list of Chinese companies that can no longer acquire semiconductor manufacturing equipment and software from the US. A measure aimed at limiting China's access to critical technologies that could be used in military applications. This has a dual effect. While it limits the development of China's semiconductor industry, it also risks the global chip supply, as many of the factories and suppliers rely on cutting-edge technologies developed in the US and its allies. This trade war also had a dramatic impact on the telecommunications industry, particularly with regard to the Chinese giant Huawei, which faced a series of sanctions from the US. These sanctions prevented Huawei from accessing crucial technologies, such as the chips needed to manufacture its smartphones and 5G network equipment. As a result, the company was forced to seek alternatives, including developing its own technology, while other Western companies looked for new suppliers to avoid the risks of relying on Chinese suppliers. The effect of these tariffs and restrictions is a significant departure from the globalized supply chain model, where China played a central role. Companies in various sectors, such as electronics, telecommunications, and defense, now find themselves forced to seek new suppliers, or even restructure their operations to minimize the financial and operational risks associated with geopolitical uncertainties. Amid growing pressure from the United States, China has been moving closer to an unlikely ally, Russia. Although the two powers do not share a history of deep alliances, tensions with the West and the need to diversify their suppliers and strategic partners have led both countries to strengthen their economic and geopolitical ties. This partnership is becoming increasingly relevant, as it offers China a way to reduce its dependence on the Western market and mitigate the effects of the sanctions and tariffs imposed by the US. The China-Russia alliance is not limited to the exchange of commodities or cooperation in areas like energy and defense. Strengthened economic ties are creating new trade routes, alternatives to traditional trade with the United States and the European Union. A clear example of this is the increase in bilateral trade between the two countries, particularly in the exchange of natural gas and oil, where Russia has become an increasingly important supplier to China, especially after the onset of Western sanctions. The Power of Siberia gas pipeline project, launched in 2019, is a symbol of this closer relationship, providing China with a stable energy source essential for its industrialization and economic growth. Moreover, the partnership has expanded into more strategic areas, such as defense technology. Russia has shared its advancements with China in areas like missile systems and aircraft, a crucial component in strengthening China's military capabilities in the face of increasing US military pressure in the Indo-Pacific region. This technological collaboration allows China to reduce its dependence on Western systems, a key step in ensuring its autonomy in a globally competitive environment for cutting-edge technology. The diplomatic support that Russia and China have provided to each other is also a key element of this partnership. Russia, with its seat on the UN Security Council and influence in global institutions, has helped protect China's interests in various geopolitical issues, whether related to Syria, Iran, or negotiations on cybersecurity and energy. This geopolitical alliance has the potential to reshape the global dynamic, becoming a direct counterbalance to American influence, especially in strategic regions like Central Asia and the Middle East. However, the partnership with Russia also brings challenges for China, such as dependence on Russian energy resources and the need to balance its own ambitions with the demands of the Kremlin. Still, the strengthening of this relationship is positioning China strategically to better resist Western pressures and secure a stronger position on the global stage. Recent export restrictions imposed by China, particularly concerning critical minerals like gallium, germanium, and antimony, are reshaping the global supply chain landscape. These materials are essential for several high-tech industries, including semiconductors, telecommunications, and defense, making them key pieces in the geopolitical contest between China and the United States. The control over these strategic resources places China in an advantageous position, given its ability to control a significant portion of the global production of these essential minerals. Gallium, for example, is vital for the manufacturing of high-performance semiconductors, especially those used in devices like smartphones, satellites, and radar systems. Germanium, on the other hand, is a crucial component in the production of fiber optics and telecommunications equipment, including satellite communication systems essential for the global internet infrastructure. Antimony is used in the production of metal alloys and batteries, with applications ranging from the automotive industry to weapon manufacturing. With China producing about 60% of the world's germanium and nearly 100% of the gallium, the decision to restrict exports of these minerals to the United States is a direct blow to industries that rely on these critical inputs. In addition to the immediate impact on the prices of these raw materials, the Chinese embargo is creating a ripple effect that affects other parts of the global supply chain. Companies in the United States and other countries that rely on these materials now face a scenario of uncertainty, where the security and continuity of supply are at risk. The situation is particularly delicate for the semiconductor industry, which is already struggling with a shortage of essential components, a problem that was exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The new Chinese restrictions, combined with the U.S. efforts to increase control over the export of sensitive technologies, such as chip manufacturing equipment, could further intensify this shortage and hinder technological progress in the sector. China's export strategy is not just a reaction to U.S. sanctions, but also a form of assertiveness in the global geopolitical game. By controlling these materials, China has the ability to alter the balance of power in high-tech supply chains, pressuring the U.S. and its allies to reconsider their trade and industrial strategies. The impact of this could be long-lasting, as many cutting-edge industries will now need to explore new sources of supply or even seek technological alternatives to reduce their dependence on these resources. In terms of adaptation, governments and companies are being forced to accelerate the development of alternative mining sources or invest in technologies that allow the recycling or replacement of these materials. Therefore, this scenario not only requires a strategic reassessment by major industrial powers, but also creates new opportunities for emerging players who may provide viable alternatives. The trade war between the United States and China, particularly in areas such as import tariffs and export controls of critical minerals, is rapidly transforming the global economic and geopolitical environment. China's restrictions on essential materials like gallium, germanium, and antimony, combined with strategies to control technological supply chains, are putting the global industrial and trade structures to the test. The growing partnership between China and Russia adds another layer of complexity, creating new dynamics that challenge the status quo of global trade relations. For businesses and governments, this means adaptation will be crucial. We need to understand how trade restrictions and controls over sensitive technologies will affect not only supply chains, but also financial stability and national security. In the near future, it will be vital for nations and corporations to diversify their sources of supply, invest in technological innovations, and seek alternatives to minimize the risks associated with this growing geopolitical tension. What is clear is that we are in an era of uncertainties, and to thrive in this new global landscape, a deep understanding of these trade and geopolitical strategies will be crucial. Companies and countries that are better prepared for these changes will be in a strategic position to navigate the turbulence ahead. If you've watched this far, subscribe and leave a like on the video, it would help me a lot. Thank you everyone, and see you next time.